Once upon a time, in a kingdom made almost entirely of glitter and giggles, lived a princess named Pickle. Now, Princess Pickle wasn't your ordinary princess. She didn't spend her days sighing by the window or practicing her curtsy. Oh no, Princess Pickle was an inventor, a creator, a maker of mischief and marvelous things. Her royal chambers looked more like a scientist's laboratory than a princess's bedroom, filled with bubbling beakers, whirring widgets and gadgets that went bowing in the night. One sunny morning, Princess Pickle decided she was going to invent something truly spectacular. A spell to make breakfast extra fun. She had grown a little tired of plain old toast and oatmeal. "I want a breakfast that sings. A breakfast that dances," she declared to her pet hamster, Sir Squeakington, who was currently running on a tiny treadmill that powered a tiny light bulb. Princess Pickle gathered her ingredients. A pinch of sunshine, captured in a dewdrop. A giggle from the castle jester. A spoonful of rainbow sherbet. And, for that extra kick, a single stray strand of spaghetti she found stuck to the royal chef's hat. She mixed them all together in a big, sparkly cauldron, chanting a silly spell she made up on the spot. "Wiggle waggle fizzy pop, make my breakfast hop and bop." A cloud of pink and yellow smoke poofed out of the cauldron, smelling faintly of bubblegum and toast. Princess Pickle leaned over to see if her spell had worked. Suddenly, she felt a strange tickle on her head. She reached up, and to her astonishment, her long golden hair had transformed into spaghetti. Long, wobbly, perfectly cooked spaghetti noodles, complete with a sprinkle of Parmesan cheese for sparkle. Sir Squeakington stopped running on his treadmill and stared, his little hamster mouth wide open. "Squeak, squeak, squeaker, squeak," he chattered, which in hamster language means, "Your head is a pasta bowl." Princess Pickle ran to her mirror. It was true. Her beautiful hair was now a cascade of delicious-looking noodles. She wiggled her head, and the spaghetti strands swayed back and forth. "Well," she said, trying to sound dignified, "this is unexpected." But as she spoke, the words came out all jumbled up. "Unexpected is this well," she said instead. She tried again. "My hair is spaghetti." It came out as, "Spaghetti is hair my." She gasped, which sounded like a funny sag. Princess Pickle realized the spell hadn't just changed her hair. It had made her talk backward. This was a disaster. Or, as she would say it, a disaster was this. Just then, the royal butler, a very tall and serious man named Barnaby, knocked on the door. "Your Highness, the King and Queen request your presence for breakfast." "No, Barnaby, go away," Princess Pickle tried to shout, but it came out as, "Away go Barnaby, no." Barnaby, being very proper, simply opened the door. He took one look at Princess Pickle and her spaghetti hair, blinked 3 times, adjusted his monocle, and said, "A most unique hairstyle, Your Highness. Very Italian." Princess Pickle stomped her foot. "Help me, Barnaby," she tried to say, but it tumbled out as, "Barnaby me help." She pointed frantically at her mouth and then her head. Barnaby, bless his heart, thought she was asking for a fork. He politely excused himself and returned a moment later with a shiny silver fork and spoon. Princess Pickle groaned. This wasn't working. She had to find a way to reverse the spell. She grabbed Sir Squeakington, tucked him in her pocket, and dashed out of her room, her spaghetti hair bouncing with every step. She ran through the castle halls, trying to explain her predicament to everyone she met. She saw the royal gardener trimming the rose bushes. "Morning good," she chirped, trying to say, "Good morning." The gardener, a kind old woman named Petunia, just smiled and said, "And a good morning to you, Princess. Did you know you have a bit of noodle on your head?" Princess Pickle just sighed a backward "H-jis" and ran on. She passed the castle knights who were practicing their sword fighting. "Careful, Bee!" she yelled, as one of them swung his sword a little too close to her head. "A haircut won't you do?" the knight joked, not realizing he was closer to the truth than he knew. The knights all laughed, their armor clanking merrily. Finally, she reached the royal kitchen, the source of the original spaghetti strand. Maybe the chef, a jolly man named Chef Antoine, would know what to do. The kitchen was a whirlwind of activity. Pots were bubbling, pans were sizzling, and the air was thick with the delicious smells of cooking. "Antoine, chef!" Princess Pickle cried, rushing in. Chef Antoine turned around, a ladle in his hand. His eyes widened at the sight of her spaghetti hair. "Princess, sacré bleu, what happened to your hair? It looks good enough to eat." And before Princess Pickle could stop him, he plucked a noodle from her head, dipped it in a nearby pot of tomato sauce, and tasted it. "Magnifique! Perfectly al dente." "No, eat my hair!" Princess Pickle wailed, which of course came out as, "Hair my eat no." This was getting more and more ridiculous. She had to think. What was in the spell? Sunshine, a giggle, sherbet, and the spaghetti. The spaghetti must be the key. But to reverse it, she couldn't just use the same ingredients. She had to use their opposites. Her mind raced. What's the opposite of sunshine? Moonlight. She'd need to capture a moonbeam. What's the opposite of a giggle? A sad little tear. That might be tricky. The opposite of rainbow sherbet? Maybe plain old porridge. And the opposite of a cooked spaghetti noodle? An uncooked one, of course. Her plan formed, she raced off to gather the new ingredients. First, the uncooked spaghetti. That was easy. Chef Antoine had a whole pantry full. He gladly gave her a dry noodle, still looking at her hair with a hungry expression. Next, porridge. She found a bowl of leftover oatmeal from breakfast. Perfect. Now for the harder parts. A moonbeam. It was the middle of the day. But Princess Pickle was an inventor. She ran to her laboratory and grabbed one of her gadgets, the Lunar Reflector 3000. It was a complex device made of mirrors and lenses that could capture and store moonlight. Luckily, she had a little bit saved from the last full moon. She carefully released one shimmering moonbeam into a jar. Last, and most difficult, was a sad little tear. Princess Pickle wasn't a sad person. She loved inventing and making mischief. How could she possibly cry? She sat down and tried to think of sad things. A melted ice cream cone. A puppy who lost its toy. A story with an unhappy ending. She thought so hard about a lonely little rain cloud that had no other clouds to play with that a single tiny tear rolled down her cheek. Quickly, she caught it on a silver spoon. She had everything. She raced back to her room, her spaghetti hair flopping and bouncing. She threw all the new ingredients into her cauldron. The uncooked spaghetti noodle, the spoonful of porridge, the captured moonbeam, and the single sad tear. Now for the backward spell. She had to say her original chant, but in reverse. She took a deep breath and shouted, "Bop and hop breakfast my make, fizzy pop wiggle waggle." A cloud of blue and silver smoke poofed from the cauldron, smelling of fresh rain and starlight. The tickling feeling on her head returned. She reached up. Her hair was hair again. Long, golden, and completely free of pasta. She took another deep breath. "It worked!" she shouted. The words came out perfectly. Not backward at all. She laughed with relief. "It really, really worked!" Sir Squeakington did a happy little flip on his treadmill. From the doorway, Barnaby the butler cleared his throat. Your Highness. It seems your noodle situation is resolved. Shall I inform the chef that dinner will not be served from your head?" Princess Pickle giggled, a real forward-sounding giggle. "Yes, Barnaby, and from now on, I think I'll stick to inventing things that don't involve breakfast foods. Maybe a self-tying shoelace or a robot that tells jokes." And from that day on, Princess Pickle continued her marvelous inventing, but she was always a little more careful with her spells. And every time she saw a plate of spaghetti, she couldn't help but smile, remembering the day she had the silliest, most delicious hair in the entire kingdom. Thanks for watching our story. If you want to hear more about the adventures of Princess Pickle, Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. See you next time.